My story of giving started a long time ago. In 1957, my husband Hardy and I moved to College Station for him to work on his master's degree and teach part-time at the college. And we had 2 little girls. Carol was 2 and Cindy was 1. The salary was not great. I still remember it was $400 a month before deductions, so we had to be careful. And I took care of the finances. He was always busy going to school or teaching. So every month, we were paid once a month. So every month I would write it out on a sheet of paper, all that we needed to pay. And we had to live on what that was. And a couple of years later, and I don't even remember what it was, but there was going to be an expense that we couldn't handle. And so I had written everything out. And when Hardy got home that night, I showed him the paper. And my solution was, the only thing we didn't have to pay was our offering to the church. And we could skip this month and maybe catch up later. We were not tithers at this point. And he barely looked at the paper and said, no, you go ahead and write that check. And I did write that check, not with the right motives. I wasn't being an agreeable wife. I was thinking at the end of the month when we run out of money, he'll see how wise I was. So we took the check on Sunday. And I was still worrying about finances. I was very good at worrying about that sort of thing. And on Tuesday, he called me and said that an engineering firm in Bryan had called him and asked him to do some surveying for them for the next 3 Saturdays. And the Lord did get my attention, and he taught me such a lesson. He was telling me, you do what you're supposed to do, and I'll be faithful to you always. We did become tithers. That was the first. From that point on, I wrote that check first every month, and we lived on what was left, and there was always enough. And then later, when I became a widow at a young age and I was raising 6 children, things would get really hard sometimes, but there was always enough. And he's taken me through all this time. I still always have enough. And it's such a blessing to know that I'm being obedient and to see all the things that God gives back to me. It's so neat when I can give my tithe every month, but to give to missions and to other things that the church needs. And he's always given me enough. And it's an old saying that you can't outgive God, and it's true. You can't outgive God ever. When we were still in College Station and I had just had a new little baby boy, we were on our way to see my husband's grandmother, and a drunk driver hit us head on and killed him. And there's no way you can get through something like that without knowing Jesus is right by your side. I was left with 3 children, so I was busy, but I knew that everything I did, he was carrying me through that. He just gave me strength. And he gave me a peace that only he can give.